So, Chelsea, what are we talking about today?
Yes, so we are really excited. We have Bale from Just One More Project here with us today to go over kind of like sublimations and lasers 101. If you were lucky enough to go to LBX, you might have been able to sit in on the presentation that Bale did on sublimations and lasers, which was great. But we are lucky enough to have her here to do her own little presentation for us, going over kind of what you need to know about sublimation, what you can do to get started. We are, correct me if I'm wrong, Vale, but I think this is more of kind of like an introductory.
Yes. So I'm gonna basically talk to you about sublimation like you've never even heard of it before. And then if there's some specific questions about how-tos and different things like that, I am here to answer them. And I just kind of want to give you guys another way to use your acrylics that is just such a fun thing to do. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, if there's anyone in the chat who already does use or have like a sublimation setup, let us know, because I'd love to know that. So this is the presentation that I put together for the Lightburn conference, or the LBX over the summer. And Chelsea and Courtney with Houston Acrylic thought it was so great to come and chat about these techniques with you guys. So I'm just gonna chat very casually about this and kind of go through some of the things that I think you need to know about when it comes to sublimation. So okay, so you guys all know me. I'm Vale with Just One More Project and the Laser Craft Fest. If you haven't attended the Laser Craft Fest before, you absolutely need to. Chelsea, you need to mute a mic.
All right, give me a second.
There she goes. Is that better? Okay, so if you have not attended Laser Craft Fest, you should absolutely join. There's so much fun stuff to learn. Sublimation as one of them. So I am a mom of 2 young girls, and I live in Austin, so super close to Houston. And I'm all about lasers. Ever since I got my first laser, I have never turned back. And so good. So okay, let's talk about the tools that you need for sublimation. Or actually, we're actually gonna. How about I back up, because I'm here, I swear. We're going to talk about several things. We're going to talk about what sublimation is, the tools, the entire process of sublimating, what kind of blanks you can use, and then how you can actually use laser made blanks, which is like the whole point of all of this. And then different materials that I have used, and then some of the cool possibilities. So, oh yes. Okay, Grace, you have made them. You did sublimation pins. Yeah, so cool. And like there's just so many variations to it. I cannot wait to go through this. Okay, so first of all, what is sublimation? I'm going to go into like the super nerdy of this. Let me grab this really quick and make sure I'm telling you guys the right stuff. So sublimation is really a process where you take ink that is printed onto a sheet and pressed with a heat press. And when that ink is heated and pressed, it turns into like a cool, funky gas, and that basically bonds chemically to whatever substrate you're applying it to. So in this case, we're going to be talking about acrylic, but that's really it. It's just like ink heated with heat, and then some cool sciencey stuff happens, and then that gets basically a part of your material, which is really cool. You can't scratch it off. You can't peel it off. It's like kind of like melted into that material, and not even melted. It's just like kind of absorbed into that material, and it's never going away. So that is sublimation. Let's go into what the tools are that you need. So I like to think about this as like tools that you need to have, and then tools that are nice to have. We are all probably makers. We all probably, have all the fun, fancy tools and all the machines. And then we probably have all this extra stuff that we don't need. So, which, yes, I can very much relate to that. There's all this fun, sparkly stuff that we probably don't need, but there are some serious essentials that you need if you are thinking about adding sublimation to your life. So the very first thing you're going to need is a dedicated printer that has sublimation ink in it. So this could be a dedicated printer that is just for sublimation, or it could be a dedicated inkjet printer that you have converted with putting sublimation ink in it. So there's so many options. So feel free to ask me any questions about specifics there, but they range in all kinds of prices. You could convert a printer or for, I don't know, $200, $300, or you could just totally go buy a full-blown sublimation printer for $400 or $500. So big variation there a little with like what you could do. Sublimation ink, super important. This is not just regular inkjet ink. This is the ink that has some kind of cool stuff in it that actually vaporizes when it's heated, and it is meant to bind to polyester. So specific sublimation ink. And then you need sublimation paper. And so this is not like sublimation. It's not like regular printer paper. It is paper that has a super special coating that is meant to kind of like absorb and hold onto that ink so that it can be released when it's pressed. And then you need something to press it. I would highly recommend a flat press. If you're thinking about using laser cut materials, obviously a flat press is going to be your way to go. You can also use a mug press, a convection oven that is only dedicated to sublimation. And you've probably read this somewhere, but once you use a convection oven for sublimation, you do not want to use it for food. So that's important. And then you are going to need blowout paper that protects your heat press from that protects your heat press from what you're sublimating. So these are the things that are nice to have. These are things that I like call the sparkly stuff that you probably don't need to have, but would be fun to have. So heat resistant tape. This is meant to adhere your transfer to whatever you're pressing it on. So I would probably think this is more of a need to have, but if you get really good at sublimation, you probably don't need it. But if you're just starting out, definitely get it. A lint roller, because if you're sublimating on fabrics, or if you have a bunch of acrylic in a dusty corner and you want to pull it out, you probably want to make sure that it's nice and clean. And then heat gloves, because you will burn yourself. Yes, you will. Okay. This, I know that people will be watching this after the fact. So if you are watching this, feel free to scan this QR code. I will send you a full list of supplies that is literally everything I'm just talking about right now, of where I like to buy everything and some specific tools that work. Okay. So let's talk about the printing process. First, you have to print your image. If you are using any kind of software, Illustrator, Canva, whatever you would like to print the transfer, you are going to want to make sure that you print it in high quality. So look at your resolution, look at the color settings on your printer. You're going to want to print it in a PNG or a JPG version. This is going to be different for every single printer, but every single sublimation printer, but you will want to set it on a presentation matte mode, and then set your quality for super high quality color. And that is just making sure that it's releasing as much ink as possible onto that transfer so that it has a lot of ink to transfer over to that substrate. So again, this is going to vary depending on the printer. Okay, this is called the sublimation stack. And this is where you take your, Lori, I will make sure that you get that link. It's coming up, so hang tight. This is called the sublimation stack. So if you look over here, you've got, it's going to start with butcher paper. This is to protect the bottom of your heat press. Then you've got your substrate. So in this case, acrylic. Then you've got your ink transfer, and your ink is going to be face down on that, on whatever you want to press on, right? So you want to make sure that it's not face up, because that ink is going to release and it's going to go onto this paper. So you want to make sure that it's facing down where you want it to press. Okay. Some of the things that you should consider are when you want to mirror your artwork and when you don't want to mirror your artwork. So, for example, if you are printing something that, can you guys see this? Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. Okay. So if you are printing something like this, that's like this part right here is printed. This was printed on the back right here. Okay. So, yeah, Chelsea, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about what the acrylic, like how the acrylic will come and why you would be printing it on the back here?
Yeah. So that was actually the sublimation acrylic, correct?
This is the sublimation acrylic. Yes.
Okay. So with the sublimation acrylic has the sublimation coating on the back specifically. Yeah. So we've got a sublimation clear acrylic, and it's clear because it's clear acrylic with a white coating. So it looks,
like glass.
Like it looks glass. Like glass.
Yes.
And you sublimate on the back of it. So if you're doing it on the back and it's going to show through, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't mirror.
You do not mirror. So
if you're not mirror on like the sublimation specific, and you always want to make sure you do it on the back. If you sublimate on the front, this is an example of the sublimation glitter on the front. It's a little bit hard to tell, but you can see how it's muted, like the print is muted and it's not high contrast,
right? Versus
when you sublimate it on the front, or sorry, on the back, like you're supposed to, it is a lot more vibrant.
Yeah. So I'm going to explain why that is in probably the next slide here, so you guys can kind of get why it's not vibrant. But yeah, that totally makes sense. So so if you have text and you're putting your text on top and you're sublimating on like the surface of, what am I trying to say? The front of it, you want to make sure that it's mirrored. But if you're going to be sublimating on the back and it's going to be showing through, then you do not need to mirror that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, this is an example of it just on standard white acrylic. Yeah. So, because you can sublimate on other styles of acrylic, it just, a sublimation specific acrylic is made to get some really vibrant, like photorealistic prints. But so this is just the standard white. And because it is opaque, you're sublimating on the front, which means you do need to mirror your design.
That's right. And this acrylic, by far, the one where it's got the coating on the back, is my very favorite thing to sublimate on. The results you get with something like this is just incredible. It just looks so beautiful. It's like custom acrylic. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, I'm going to move on. Tell me if I'm going too fast or not. Okay, so what can you sublimate? So this is exactly what we were talking about. Now, that ink that is getting printed onto that sublimation paper, that ink is meant to adhere to something that has high polyester count or a special polyester coating. Are you able to share the link to that acrylic? Yes. Chelsea, if you want to drop links for the acrylic that we're using here, that would be fantastic. Hang on, you guys, I'm not even sharing the screen anymore. Can someone please tell me that I'm going nuts? There we go. Okay. So like I said, you can't just sublimate on anything. You can only sublimate on something that is a high polyester count, and that is when it comes to fabric, or something that has a special polyester or poly coating on it. So what does that mean? Let's talk about it. Okay, so sublimation blanks. These are the things that you see all over Amazon. These are the things that are like super cheap that you could buy in bulk. These are all materials that have this special poly coating on it that is made to basically have that ink kind of soak into it and become a part of it. So when it comes to sublimation blanks, they come in two different kinds. You can buy textile blanks, which is that cloth fabric type stuff, and that's what's made with high polyester counts. And then they have the non-textiles, which are like your mugs, your acrylics, that kind of stuff. And so you aren't going to be able to just sublimate on anything. If if you buy something that's sublimation specific, it is going to likely have a super high polyester count. If you pick up like a regular shirt from, you know, Target, Walmart, whatever, you can probably sublimate on it if you read the tag and it says a percentage of how much polyester is in there. So for example, I've bought t-shirts that say like 50% polyester and 50% cotton. That just means that ink is going to only stick to 50% of that material, which means you're going to get this like faded vintagey look, versus a sublimation t-shirt is probably going to be made out of 100% polyester. And that's why you're going to get a much more vibrant transfer, because all of that ink has now transferred onto 100% of that material. Versus if it's something that was like 50%, you're getting this like kind of faded look, which is exactly what Chelsea was talking about with the coating. Yeah. I have excellent words today, guys. Okay, so here's an example of what the textiles are. You guys have seen the hats, the pillows, the t-shirts. These are all made with those super high polyester counts. And then these are those non-textiles, the tumblers. You can see the coasters, wood. Now, you can totally sublimate on wood. Now, is it going to, if the wood is untreated, perfect. Yeah. So if the wood is untreated, then you don't know if that sublimation is actually like part of that material. It could be washed off. It could be wiped off. It may not last, but hold on. I'm going to let you guys see what Chelsea's showing. So that right there is, and I'll talk about that, but like what's in this image here was wood that has been treated with poly coating. So if you have wood that is sublimatable, it's probably because there is some kind of finish on top of it that is made for that ink to kind of hold on to. Does that make sense? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about combining sublimation and lasers. I mean, this is like gold right here. So when you combine lasers with sublimation, you're basically like making anything you want. I mean, there's so much you can do there. You can make custom shapes and sublimate them. You can create your own kind of personalized pieces. You can add frames, you can add layers. There's just like so much that you can do when you are using a laser and then sublimating. And so I'm going to show you some examples here. So these are just examples. Like this is how about I share? God, good Lord. Here we go. Chelsea, can you tell me when I'm not sharing? That would be excellent.
I can do that.
Because like I see all these screens and I don't know which ones you guys see. So bear with me. Okay. So here's some examples of of combining lasers and sublimation. Like you could see how custom this can get. Like this is like the outline of a cat and that has an image sublimated on it. This is not something you can buy as a blank, right? Like you're able to use your laser and get these beautiful custom pieces that is just so much better and like something that you could charge significantly more for if you are rather than using blanks. So keep that in mind. Combining these two, lasers and sublimation, is just so good. So okay, hold on, still sharing, I promise. Here we go. So here's some other examples of things you've seen. I have done these little like luggage tags before, and I absolutely love doing this. I will stop sharing. Hold on. I absolutely love doing this because I know that Houston Acrylic, you guys have like all kinds of colors and prints and all kinds, like every option that you could possibly find, right? But let's say that they don't have something that you need, and you want some funky florals, or you want something that
you don't have something that they need.
You don't. I'm telling you, they likely do have something that you need, 100%. But if you're like, my gosh, I want to do something way out of the box here, like you can totally just make your own acrylic by sublimating on it, right? It's just like, it's crazy. As I was reading in a Facebook group this morning, somebody was looking for something that was like a muted checker look or something. And I'm like, why don't you just sublimate it? Like, why don't you just get your sublimatable acrylic and then sublimate whatever you want on there. And that's your like print, right? And so there's just so many options to things you can do. And yeah, I just want you to keep your mind open with like, if they don't have it, which they probably do, you could probably make it yourself. So hold on, let me share again. Okay. So, all right, let's talk about laser materials. Chelsea stole all of these for me, so she's going to share them as I talk about them. Some of the most common materials for lasers that I've seen people sublimate on are MDF, wood, and of course, acrylic. And I will go through each one of these. So this is Sublimation MDF. Chelsea, will you kind of explain what that is? Houston Acrylic sells a double-sided Sublimation MDF. What is that?
All right. I did change my mic settings to hopefully help with the echo. So let me know if you can't hear me or if it's worse. So this is the double-sided Sublimation MDF. And basically it has an MDF core with a double-sided, with a sublimation coating on both sides. So you can sublimate on both sides. If you don't sublimate, then on one side, then the backside will just be this white high gloss coating that's pretty scratch resistant and durable. So it's really up to you and your project if you're making it double-sided or not. And the thing with this versus the sublimation acrylic or other coated MDF like TruFlat white is that the coating is a bit hardier and a bit thicker. So you do need to consider that with your laser settings. It's not going to use the same exact settings that you use for your MDF because you need it to be strong enough to get through the sublimation coating on both sides. The thing that a lot of people have asked if you can do, and I need to update the website with it. I believe I need to double check what the photo is on the website. You can engrave it. So I think a lot of people think with like the sublimation acrylic or the sublimation MDF, you can't engrave it, but you can. Yeah. Again, anything on our website, the first product you're going to see, product image, is a cut and an engrave with our logo. So sometimes the engraving looks really good. Sometimes it looks really not that great, but we don't edit it because we want it to be true to how it would engrave for your project. And so the sublimation double-sided MDF, you can engrave it if that's something you want to do. And one of the things you can actually play around with that I thought was really cool, and I wish I had my example today, because the coating is so thick compared to like if you've worked with TruFlat white or the TruFlat black, is you can technically do an engrave where it engraves white and doesn't go all the way through the sublimation coating. Ooh. Or you can do a more powerful engrave and go all the way to where you see the wood, like the MDF wood engrave. So that's something you can play with, have a little bit of fun with. But this is the double-sided Sublimation MDF. And then the biggest thing that a lot of people ask about with this is some people have talked about like when they go to do it, it'll separate. Like the coating separates from the wood with the double-sided MDF. The trick with the double-sided MDF is you can't heat it up, look at your press, like look at your transfer and realize the transfer was too dull and go back and reheat it. Mm-hmm. If you go and do multiple heats and presses, especially on the double-sided material, you run the risk of like, because of the material contracting and expanding during the heat process, that it'll like pop.
Yeah.
And the layers will come apart. So you just need to really tinker with getting your settings right for your project, your paper, your ink, your heat press. Yeah. But if you are getting that popping effect, it's from having too much variance between being heated and cooled, heated and cooled, heated and cooled. And that's something that's a little bit more unique with the double-sided Sublimation MDF than a single-sided Sublimation MDF or the acrylic, sublimation acrylic.
You can see how vibrant it is though. Like that color from that.
Here it is compared to wood. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wow, right? Like, I mean, perfect for photographs, perfect for just so much. Like I see like full blown paintings and things coming out from here. So Sublimation MDF is a wonderful, wonderful choice. The other choice is this TruFlat white. Now, a TruFlat white is not made specifically for sublimation, right? It is not. It is an MDF, but the coating on it's not made specific for sublimation. What does that mean? That means that it doesn't have the high the high percentage of that polyester coating on it, but it still has enough where it will be able to soak up some of that ink, right? And so you're going to get kind of that vintagey look versus the Sublimation MDF, which is made for sublimation. You're going to get a super bright, vibrant look because that is made specifically to hold on to all of that ink that is on that transfer. So different looks, different types of things, but I mean, you can really kind of choose whatever works for you and whatever project you're working on. So some people love this vintage look, some people don't. So I don't know. It's just very, very, so many options.
One thing I'll add to the TruFlat white is this is the original TruFlat white. We do now carry the reformulated TruFlat white 2.0, and if you sublimate the TruFlat white 2.0, it falls somewhere between the original TruFlat white and the double-sided. It's still not as vibrant. It's still not as high gloss or shine, but it is a bit more pigmented than the older TruFlat white style. So it's somewhere in between.
Yeah, and I haven't tested that one yet to sublimate on, so I would assume you would get something kind of in the middle of both of those is what I would think. But again, like with what Chelsea was saying about kind of finding the right settings for the material that you're using, it's like a beautiful fine line between, like, you guys are very familiar with finding the right power and the right speed for when you're cutting material. When it comes to sublimation, it's finding the right temperature and the right time. And so it's like temperature and time, you have to find like that perfect like amount to do that, just like how it is with lasers, with speed and power, same kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. Lots of testing. Okay, this is my absolute favorite. It's the Sublimation Cast Acrylic. This is basically clear acrylic that has that coating on the back of it. Okay, so you would not mirror a design if you are sublimating on the back of this. The back coating has that poly coating on it that is meant to hold on to all of that ink. And because it's got that coating on it, the result that you see is through the front of that clear acrylic. And it is so stinking beautiful. I mean, that doesn't even look as good as, I mean, you just need to look at what it looks like in person. It's wonderful. I have made so many things with the Sublimation Cast Acrylic, and I love the way it looks. So yeah, it looks like glass. It's so cool. So highly recommend this one. And anything that you want to add about the Sublimation Cast Acrylic?
With the Sublimation Cast Acrylic, we have the two versions. We have the standard version, and then we have the glitter version. The glitter isn't coming across as well on my webcam.
I'm telling you, in person, it's so beautiful. I have these earrings that I'm about to sublimate with the glitter right now, and I'll share a picture of it after I'm done. But I mean, it just gives you like a really nice, subtle kind of glitter look, which in the back you still have the design that the print that you pressed on that. So it just kind of like shows this nice sparkly look through it, which I think it's subtle, it's pretty, it's perfect. So,
and the only thing I'll say for the Sublimation Acrylic, I have a lot of people ask, do you cut or engrave first? Like cut out your piece before you sublimate it. I don't know if you have a preference, Bale. I've done both, and I've gotten both to work. The only thing I will say is if you sublimate and then cut, the heat generated by your laser, especially along the edges, it can make the sublimation coating a little bit more susceptible to being like it gets heated up. So if you like touch it with your fingerprint while it's still warm and it hasn't settled, you can get like a smear or disrupt because you're basically like reactivating the sublimation coating when you heat it on your laser around the edges. So I usually, if I do it that way for the best results, I let it do the cut and the engrave, let it sit and cool off, then I take it out. Otherwise, you can just cut it first and then sublimate.
I will say that when you are sublimating cast acrylic, you're putting like super high heat on this acrylic, which means the second you pull that heat press off, your acrylic is going to bend and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I am all melted and I'm going to warp. So like get yourself a bunch of big heavy books and just plop something right on top of it afterwards so that it can kind of settle and before you handle it a little bit, because it will likely start warping. Because I mean, what's the temperature that you need to heat form with? Like it's like basically the same temperature that you're sublimating with.
Yeah. So I think most of our sublimation tests for our heat press, we were at, I think 375 or
yeah,
like 375 or 365 for like 90 seconds or 120 seconds. Yeah. I will say, I don't know why whatsoever, because it's the same exact coating, but the coating on the glitter, the sublimation clear glitter acrylic versus the sublimation clear acrylic, we had to do the same heat, but for 120 seconds on the glitter versus only like 90 seconds on the clear. I don't know why.
I'm going to play a little bit and tell you guys what I think.
Okay, yeah, you probably, you know all the science. I just know I tried all
the science. I just sort of guess, and then I'm like, that works. I'm writing it down.
But yeah, the same heat, usually the same heat threshold for sublimating on acrylic is about the same heat needed on the heat gun. Like, because I think on the heat gun, I try to get up to about 350 is when you can really start making it malleable, and that's a pretty close, if not a little bit below, what the sublimation heat is.
Why didn't we heat press our acrylic to kind of heat form it? That would have been kind of fun. We should try.
So you can, like, so a lot of people will do that, especially if they're doing something with like a hat press.
Yeah.
They do like a little heat plate or like griddle, and they lay the acrylic patches on the griddle to kind of warm them up before then they slightly shape them.
I think Chelsea and I are going to do a video about this, right, Chelsea?
Yes, because I think I love coming up to Austin, so sure, yeah.
Totally, let's do it. It's going to be so fun. Okay, so this one again, by far my super favorite to use. Now, what is the difference between using sublimation acrylic versus just regular cast acrylic? Now, this right here that Chelsea is sharing is the clear acrylic, and one of the things that you want to know is that sublimation ink is transparent. Okay, so all those whites that are meant to be white on that transfer are showing up as clear, right? Because it's not going to print out white ink. If you're doing like UV printing is going to print that white ink, right? Sublimation is not going to print that white ink. So in order to have that white show with contrast, that's when you're going to use something like that sublimation acrylic. So it has that white layering on it already. So can you hold up the sublimation one so you can see the difference there? You can see all those whites are popping out, and that's the difference right there. Like I mean, both of those are clear acrylics, right? But one of them just has that white coating on it. So that's what you need to know. And now, can you sublimate on regular white acrylic? Yep, right. And that's you can get same vibrancy with it. I don't know if it's specifically made for sublimation because it doesn't have like the coating in it, but because of what acrylic is made out of, it will adhere. Does that make sense? So yeah, I would play around with like a bunch of different colors and play and see what you like the best. But I play around with white acrylic, clear acrylic. I am gonna do some glitter acrylic one of these days and see if I can what I like out of that. But
we did do the translucent white glitter, and so like the translucent white glitter and like the fairy shimmer glitter, it was similar to this, like where you can get kind of that. You get that transparent look, and then you have the glitters, which was kind of cool. We did like white pearl.
Ooh.
And you can pretty much sublimate on anything. It's just a matter of how vibrant it'll be and how well the white, the back color translates for whatever your design is. The biggest difference I will say is that, like, for example, this is just the standard white gloss acrylic versus your white or your sublimation acrylic specifically is, again, because acrylic is a thermoplastic and how it heats up, the standard acrylic, whether it's the clear or the white, it is a little bit more susceptible to getting some of those like impressions on it of like, I don't know if you can see it in here. if you see a little bit of the like stickered edge, like you can see the sticker
Oh, I see
edges
what
or
you're
like the bubbling on it.
Yep.
So you just need to be aware of that. A way to avoid that is if you're working on a design, making sure you just put enough of like an offset or something around your paper and your piece potentially.
Hold on, let me switch this. I'm loving computers today.
And
Okay.
I will say that's also why I prefer white matte versus white glossy. If you don't need the glossy look, because it's a little bit more forgiving with any of that like kind of textured look that might happen on the surface from the heat.
So this right here, so this luggage tag has the sublimation. This is the clear cast acrylic, so it's sublimated on the back, but gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. But what Chelsea was talking about earlier was cutting and then sublimating first, or sublimating after it. So this was actually made by, I cut this first and then I created a kind of like a larger piece to sublimate on top of it. So the rest of the ink just kind of bled out onto my butcher paper. And I find that to be the easiest way to do things, as long as you're protecting your surfaces, because that ink is getting heated up. So it is going to bleed out whatever is there. So you, to protect your press, put your paper below it and above it. And you're still getting it all the way around these edges. And I just think it looks so clean and so good because it's kind of all the way around, which I like doing it that way. A lot of people will swear by like light burn, print and cut and all of those things. I stink at doing it. So every time I do it, I ruin the acrylic because I've kind of aligned it kind of wrong. So I have never done it wrong this way. So I'm going to stick with the way that I like. But yes. Okay. I'm going to go back to sharing. There's like one more material I want to make sure you guys can see. And then if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. Okay. So wood, this is Glowforge proof grade. Glowforge proof grade. I was slightly surprised about this one, but it also has a coating on there that is not specific to sublimation, but it does hold enough of that ink to kind of give you that like kind of vintagey look. And so again, not specific for sublimation, but it does give you an interesting look. So definitely an option. They do have wood that I have never purchased, but it's like made for sublimation. I don't know if it's going to get a much brighter look. It just depends on what that coating is. And then this right here, the one next to it is Baltic birch, completely untreated. I didn't even bother like doing any kind of, I didn't even like, my laser just sort of burnt it like crazy, but that's okay. But this one, it's untreated. The ink just kind of bled and soaked into that wood. But this, right, like the results with this are just really like inconsistent, right? Because you don't really know if this is going to last, if this is going to get wet, if that ink is going to kind of fade away. It's just kind of there. And I would not recommend to do that. If it's something that's like outdoor or something like that, you probably just want to make sure it has some kind of coating on it. But that's kind of what you would get if you just try to sublimate on something untreated. It could probably fade away eventually. Okay, here's that QR code. Somebody was asking about that. I'll make sure that you guys have the link to this also in the group. So you guys are welcome to download all of the things. It's basically all of the supplies that you would need, where I like to buy everything, and all the good stuff. So that's it. And we talked about the creative possibilities. The biggest thing that I love using sublimation for is, let me see. Did I switch? There we go. Is QR codes. I just think it's so much easier to just print it, slap it on, and like it looks really nice and glassy and professional. I like the way that looks. I know that a lot of people like to engrave QR codes, and for me, it's like hit or miss. Like, did it engrave correctly? Is it going to work? Is it going to scan? Yeah. I just like it this way. I love photographs. I love doing extra like patterns, kind of creating my own pattern acrylic. So many cool things that you can do. So that is all I have for you guys. Any questions that are coming up?
I'm looking at the chat. It looks like we've got it looks like we've been able to answer most of the ones that have come up about settings. I know we have some settings on our product pages.
And I have a goal to go through and kind of troubleshoot a lot of different settings and kind of come up with what works the best. And so you guys will hear about that for sure when I get there.
Grace, yeah, all the sublimated acrylic that you saw, it showed the sublimation on the sublimation was on the backside for the sublimation acrylic, whether it was the glitter or the standard. The only one I had where I showed where it wasn't was a mistake where I wasn't paying attention and I sublimated on the wrong side anyways.
And so that gives you that transparent look, right?
Yeah, that gives you that transparent look, and it gets like a weird texture on the face of the acrylic.
Yeah.
Versus when I do it the right way.
There you go. So just make sure. So the biggest things that the biggest like beginner things that I see are when somebody prints from the printer and they're printing on the sublimation ink or on the sublimation paper, your paper is going to look super duper washed out. Like you're going to be like, what is happening? This is not right. But it is right because it is basically the ink is like soaked up into there and it's just like holding it on until it's ready to release. So if you print something and you're like, this is really faded and washed out, it's actually not. It's just how sublimation paper is. So that's the first thing that I always see. The second thing I see is mirroring it, when to mirror it and when to not mirror it. So just know that if you're sublimating on the back side of something, you don't need to mirror it because it's going to show through. If you're going to sublimate on the front side of something, because you're going to be looking at it, you want to flip it. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen. And then you're setting.
Grace, to answer the QR code sign that Bale's holding up, that is on the sublimation acrylic and she sublimated it on the back.
Yes. But the thing that I did do is I actually, so the sublimation, tell me if I'm wrong, sublimation acrylic that you guys have is an 1/8 of an inch. It's an 1/8 of an inch, right? Okay. So I was trying to be extra here. And so if you can see, the QR code is slightly raised. I put an extra 1/16 of an inch behind it and then sublimated on an 1/8 of an inch, just so it would kind of pop out a little bit more. I don't know. Using acrylic will maybe get some 1/4 inch acrylic, right? Yeah. Okay.
I have to add something to my list. I didn't know we were going to get.
I mean, why not? Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, put in the comments if you want 1/4 inch sublimation acrylic, and I'll see about it.
I do. Cheers. That would be great. So much fun.
Do actually. I will. We can say it's top secret. I won't say what it is, but I did just get samples delivered yesterday of different sublimation stuff that I am. So
love it.
I'll be sending you some Bale to test since you're much better at testing sublimation.
I have a whole day of testing to kind of play around with. I actually recently got that heat press that is the Sculpt Fun. Have you guys, anyone here in the comments know what I'm talking about? It's the heat press that that basically puts pressure from the bottom. Have you seen that yet?
Oh, I've seen those.
It was on Kickstarter. I bought it over the summer thinking, oh, I'm going to play with this. And it's interesting. I love that it's like super slim and it just kind of can tuck it away. But regular heat presses, you press from the top, right? So you put all the pressure on the top, but this, you put it down, you hit a button, and then like the thing on the bottom, like kind of raises and presses, and it's kind of cool. So I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to give me consistent results, but I'll play with it and see what you guys think and then go with it.
I wonder if it could change how warpy I wonder if it would have any impact on how warpy the acrylic gets going. Because I don't see why that would change it, but I wonder if it would.
I mean, you're still lifting.
Yeah.
Once you're lifting the top. I don't know. I've only played with it once and I didn't get a good result yet. So we shall see and you will find out.
We do have a heat press question for you, Bale. When pressing your acrylic, do you remove the cushion?
I would keep it on there. So just because I don't think I've ever put anything on there without the cushion. Typically, the cushion is also there to protect your material from like the screws that are up below, like on the heat press. So if you are pressing the acrylic without that cushion, then you're getting those like indentations of like the screws and stuff. And you will probably see that on your design. So I would leave the cushion on there. Yeah. And I mean, if your heat press is like beautiful and fancy and there's nothing underneath there, maybe, but I don't see why you wouldn't pull the cushion out, or why you would pull it out. All right. Is anyone going to try it? Yes. I love it. Okay. I have made Chelsea sit and focus for a solid hour, I think.
Which is hard.
I love it. I love it. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to message me. I'm in this group too, so go ahead and tag me if you guys need to. Next week, I would love to invite you guys to Project Week. It is a super fun free event for those of you guys that want to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator. Gonna be going through a couple of fun trainings every single day for 3 days. And you'll see my face every day. It'll be lovely. And then kind of start from creating something and then turning it into a vector. So if that's something you're interested in, I will share the link for Chelsea to share with you guys. And yeah, all right. That's all we got.
Yes. Definitely check out the Project Week, and be sure to scan that QR code. If you haven't seen it, this will be available for everybody to watch for people who didn't join. And then if you want to go ahead and put the link in the comments, Bale, that would be great too for people who might have missed it.
I can do it.
Yes, but otherwise, thank you so much to Bale for coming and doing this for us. We hope to have more of these kind of live little chats, mini tutorials in the Facebook group as we continue to grow and figure out what works best for this group and this community. So if you do ever have any suggestions or things you want to see, feel free to share it in the comments or send us a message. We really are about catering this group to its members, and staying true to just laser education and innovation and creativity and inspiring others. So anything that helps with that, we are more than happy to try and facilitate. So thank you, Bale, for being our first little live. We appreciate you as always. And we'll have to trip up to Austin with some of our new samples to play with you.
Actually, I'm going to come to Houston this weekend. I will tell you. I'll keep you updated.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me know and I can meet you and just grab the stuff.
Yes. Okay, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. See you later.
See ya.